I've been talking about how effective peer reviews are and the importance of doing them formally. That sounds like a lot of work, and it is common to have a reaction that those are just too heavyweight and too expensive. They just aren't worth it. So let's think a little deeper about the economics of this peer review thing. The strategy behind peer reviews is to provide more eyeballs to find bugs in an affordable way. Perhaps surprisingly, good embedded software is about 1 to 2 lines of code per person hour. Let's say it's 2 lines of code, which is fairly common. Now that's not actually writing the code, that's the cost of the entire project, including requirements, test, and so on, and you just take number of lines of code, number of engineering hours, and you compute lines of code per person hour. If you're only writing 2 lines of code per hour, how much of that is peer review? A person can review 50 to 100 times faster than they can write code. That kind of makes sense. Reading code is a very small fraction of the amount of time of doing all the design work and all the writing of the code and all the tests. 50, 100 times faster, okay? And so even if you have 4 people in your peer review, that's 10 times faster or better than writing the code. So let's work an example with those numbers. If you have 4 people at 150 lines of code per hour, that's 300 lines of code in 2 hours, 4 people, plus an hour of prep. That works out to 25 lines of code per person hour. So if you're writing code at 2 lines per hour, and you're reviewing code at more than 10 times that, at 25 lines of code per person hour, you find out that reviews are only about 5 to 10% of your project cost. Even if you toss in the reviews of the design documents, they're small compared to the code and so on. If you do really rigorous, complete reviews, you're probably only up at about 10% of your project cost. But good peer reviews find at least half the bugs, and they find them early when they're cheap to fix. So economically, you can find defects in test, which is often 50% or more of the project cost. Or you can spend 5 to 10% to find the majority of the bugs up front. Which is a better deal, 50% cost of test or 5 to 10% cost of peer review? Given the economics, why is it that people say they don't have time to do peer reviews? Well, the obvious answer is they're too busy writing bugs.